Okay, guys, we are doing headlines. I've actually got a few errands I need to go run, and I have to go rehang a gate out at my mom's horse ranch. So, I'm going to knock out a couple of videos, set them to load, and then take off and go do what I got to do, and then I'll be back. I have names for evening prayer to lift up, several. I had actually forgotten to put a couple of them in the last night's prayer, but we'll do it today. I just spent a little time, because I was letting the morning prayer soak for a little bit. I spent a little time going over onto other channels. You know what other channels I'm talking about. And just looking through the comment sections and looking at some of the hateful stuff people say. And it still amazes me that they say the things they say, try to justify it with Scripture, and call themselves Christians and believers. I can't wrap my brain around it. I don't know how they can justify that. It's got to be a horrible state to live in, to always have to justify yourself, to always have to try to justify what you do as right, when clearly it violates what the Scriptures say and it goes against God's Word. They have their punishment waiting for them. The only chance they have to get out of it is to repent and turn away, is to turn to God and confess. I messed up. I don't want this. Because once the tribulation starts, it's all hands on deck, and it's going to be all horror, all terror, all the time. And they're either going to have to try to justify themselves, or they're going to make excuses, or get saved. Some of them are so full of hate and so blind that they don't care. When a person dedicates an entire channel just to making fun of other Christians, and still calling themselves a Christian, that's a problem. Because they're not getting the gospel out there. I do videos every now and then showing different people as a warning. Hey, watch out for this person. Here's this is, like I did yesterday. A lot of people were really confused about Free Grace Community and why I called that person out. Well, and I tried to explain to some people, but I think they missed the point. I've had a separate interaction than you guys have had from Free Grace. I've had 7 interactions on 7 different accounts from the exact same person. Every one of them said their name was Paul. Used the same typeset. He may be okay on the gospel, but he's got problems with his doctrine. And I tore one of his, on Jennifer Fraser's video yesterday, I tore his response apart, his comment apart, based on the scriptures he quoted. And a couple of words were right, but the rest of it was all jumbled up, like it didn't make sense. It didn't match the scripture he was putting out. So he's taking scripture and he's rewriting it to suit himself. And several other people came back to me later in the day, yesterday, and said, hey, I went back and I read the comment. I don't really know if there's any accusations in there, but I definitely see something going on. I'm not telling anybody, when I put these videos out like this, I'm not telling anyone to block anybody. I'm merely warning you guys and saying, hey, here's this interaction I just had with this person. Be careful if they're on your channel. I talked to David Benjamin, Diamond Justification, Jennifer, Fiery Girl, Watchwoman 65, and I just told them, just be careful, just watch, because the comments always start out really nice, but then they start to change as time goes on, as they get comfortable. And there's something wrong with this person. And to me, I still don't understand how somebody can open that many accounts and keep track of them. I have 2. And the other one I don't use because I can't keep up with it. Because every time you open a new account, you have to open a new email address to be associated with that account. You can't put 2 accounts on one email. So you have to have a new email for every account you open. Legiosium, last I counted, he was up to 11 accounts. Google that guy and look at all the stuff he's in. He trolls everywhere. He trolls on places I didn't even know existed, like Black YouTube. Yeah, there's a Black YouTube. There's a Black Facebook. And that's where he's over there trolling people. So when you find stuff like that and you start looking at all these different things, it's like, wait a second, something's not right here. And it makes you leery. Well, my life may be that way anyway. But when you see hidden accusations in comments, it starts to make you wonder. And several other people stepped up and said, yeah, I've actually been talking to this guy for a while, and he gets pretty nasty sometimes. Well, how can you be a Christian? How can you call yourself a good Christian and use the kind of language that guy uses. So all I'm saying is when I give you a warning video about a certain person, I'm just warning you guys to watch out for them. And if you don't have a negative interaction, awesome. Like Petra said, she didn't have a negative interaction with him, and that she thought his doctrine was good. Okay, but I'm just warning you. Watch that person, because people like that will be nice for a long time, and then they'll turn just like that. I had somebody here in January last month that had subbed to me in July of last year. And we talked a couple of times here and there. Didn't really hear from him a whole lot, but we talked a couple of times. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, just huge, hardcore attack in one of the videos. Whoa. I said, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? Would not entertain a conversation at all. Okay, block. That's how people are. They're good for a while, or they're not good. They sub just to keep track of you and watch what you're doing. Use some of that stuff on other channels to make fun of you, and then all of a sudden, when you finally say something or speak on something that they don't really like or they have a personal conviction about, then they reach out and attack you. And usually, from my experience, it's because you convicted them. It was a personal conviction, like Free Grace Community. He over-explains simple concepts. You don't have to over-explain them. A lot of words don't help the situation. It causes more questions. It causes more confusion, because now the person's like, well, wait a minute, but it says this, but look at what this person says, and now I'm confused. And the idea is to break it down and make it simple and to put it into real world terms. And I was accused of confusing things, but nobody's ever told me they were confused. So anyway, let's get into some headlines. Didn't mean to rant like that, but let's get into some headlines. China coronavirus outbreak. All the latest updates. This is Al Jazeera. They're very biased, so maybe not all the updates. So we're just going to look at headlines, but don't take any of this as gospel. Take all of it with a heavy dose of salt. Death toll tops 600 with more than 3,143 new infections reported across China. We may not actually go deep into this one, but grief, anger in China as doctor who warned about coronavirus dies. Is the Wuhan coronavirus outbreak threatening Xi's hold on power? Watchwoman65 put up a video earlier this morning. He actually went underground. He's in a bunker. He's hiding. Holiday canceled. How the coronavirus is hurting tourism. Truth be known about the coronavirus. Yeah, we're definitely going to get on that one about Turkey and Idlib. Truth be known about the coronavirus. There are cruise ships all over the place being quarantined with a mix of people on there from all different nations. And they're having to go through this really rigorous testing process. A couple of cruise ships, they said, don't you even come to the dock. You anchor out there and we'll send boats out to you. That's how bad it is. This is probably the worst one we've had. Matter of fact, while I'm thinking about it, we're going to go look at a few statistics, because that's what I meant to do a couple weeks ago. Okay, so the death toll. Come on, this mouse is killing me. The death toll from the coronavirus outbreak in mainland China has risen to 636. The numbers, I don't know about China, but the numbers that most of us have seen, that the death toll is actually 3 times that. Because there's places where they have them laying out in the living room floors, dead. They haven't even buried them.
They're not going to. They had to burn the bodies.
Yeah, they're burning them. Yeah. According to that's putting ash in the air. According to the country's National Health Commission, the majority of new cases reported are in Hubei and its provincial capital Wuhan. Some 31,161 infections have been reported across China. Now, the numbers I've seen on this actually aren't 31,000. It's actually closer to 800,000 worldwide. So this may just be China, but I don't know. There's so many different numbers being put out there. You don't know what to believe. You have to do a lot of.
China's actually been underreporting the cases.
Well, the guy that originally called it out is dead. He was the one that was in the video. Y'all know who he is, the one that died? He's the one that was in the video on the phone talking to the hospital administrator. He's all in his gear, and he's yelling. Yeah, the hospital administrator hopped a helicopter and took off, left the hospital, left the country. So, and now he's dead. Okay, the virus has killed 2 people outside mainland China, one in Hong Kong and another in the Philippines, and at least 25 countries have confirmed cases. I actually heard it was more like 35 countries. Like I said, take everything with a grain of salt and do your due diligence and research these things. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom, I don't even want to say his last name, has asked for $675 million to help countries address the expected spread of the virus. Here are the latest updates. Pastor Tim and a few others have been talking about how FEMA camps have been set up. Well, of course, they've already been set up, but they've been getting them online to house or detain or separate these people from everyone else because they just don't know who's got it and who doesn't have it. Demand for masks, gowns, gloves, and other protective gear has risen up to 100 times, and prices have soared due to the coronavirus, producing a severe disruption in supply. The WHO's chief said, "They tell you to wear face masks. The face masks they're wearing are N95 series masks. That's for dust particles. That's not for virus. In order to stop viruses, you have to get like the $150 to $300 masks that seals around your face with canisters on the side that are made to block biologicals. This is a biological. Regular N95 paper masks will not stop biologicals, yet they're running around wearing them. And the people that are wearing them are still getting sick. So do with that information what you want. I recommend having N95s and carrying them around because like if a volcano ever goes off, ash is going to rain down everywhere. That will block that ash. A wet rag that doesn't block it, it just turns it into concrete. You don't want to breathe that ash in, it'll kill you. So these masks, they're not helping the situation. They're just, because that's all they have right now. You have to have the really good high-end masks, the full face masks. The situation is exacerbated by widespread use of personal protective equipment outside patient care, he told reporters in Geneva, adding that he had spoken to manufacturers and distributors to ensure supplies for those who need them. He also said he could see practices. Tim just went live. Of course, this will be after he's done. He also said such practices such as hoarding in order to ensure higher prices and called for solidarity from the public and the private sector. And that's one thing I am very against is hoarding. Buy what you need, maybe a tiny bit extra, that's it. Let it all go. Because back whenever we had the big Hurricane Harvey here and gas went nuts because people were going crazy, the Houston refineries are not putting out gas. Well, here's a fun fact about that whole scenario that a lot of people didn't get. I live here. That whole thing got started in, what's the name of that town?
I don't remember.
It's down south of Victoria. It starts with a C.
Yeah, it was somewhere down.
Cuero. It was in Cuero, Texas, which is going that direction from me. It's in between me and Houston. Cuero, Texas. A lady running a gas station there. The people were coming in. They were filling up their cars. A friend of hers came in and she said, "Hey, you better get gas now while you're here." She was letting her know, we're about to run out. Well, her friend took it as the whole state was running out, went on Facebook and punched it in, and it went ballistic and went everywhere. They were still pumping fuel out of the storage tanks from the refinery. I had video of it. I shared it on Facebook before I got blocked on Facebook. I had video of it. They were still pumping gas out of there. So many people in my town here, I witnessed gas pumps get a delivery of gas and be empty in an hour. Guys would pull in with a dually. I know one of them, and I let him know about it too. 4 55-gallon drums in the back of his dually pickup. Filled them all up. Well, you don't need all that fuel. Because when I see him, he never does that. But he did then several times because he had storage tanks at his house. Now, if you're running a ranch and you need the fuel, well, that's one thing. But they had to actually truck fuel from the panhandle of Texas to get down to backfill where people were hoarding all this gasoline. They were going and filling up gas cans, because you know the law is you got to use a gas can. Where they were filling up gas cans and taking it home and dumping it in any container they could find. then going back and filling the gas cans up again. It's ridiculous. They were getting fuel bladders and putting them in the backs of trucks and filling up these 150-gallon fuel bladders. So people were losing their mind. Well, it turned out it was all a hoax. It was all fake.
Awesome.
People were hoarding everything, and there was no reason to. It was mass hysteria. So I was really big against that. I actually unloaded in a convenience store up here at people who were doing that. I was like, there's something wrong with you guys that you think you have to hoard all this fuel. There is no fuel shortage. Go online and look. Well, they were going off Facebook news, which is all lies anyway, and stories people put out. We never ran out of gas. Never did. Once everything settled down and the trickle down went out, then everything was fine because they were able to catch up with their deliveries. But ridiculous. Every gas station in our town shut down. I chewed out on one guy. I told him, because I'd seen him 3 times that day at the gas pumps. I told him, I said, I've seen you here. This is your 3rd time coming here filling up gas. I can't even find enough gas to fill my gas tank up to go to the doctor at the VA in San Antonio, and you're in here pouring all this gas? I said, you guys are hosing it for everyone else. I unloaded on everybody in that gas station. And they all just stood there looking at me. I said, all y'all know you're wrong. I filled 1 gas can and took it home for my lawnmower. I haven't hoarded any gas because there is no shortage. If all you idiots would get online and look, you'd see they're pumping fuel out of Houston right now. But that's how people are. If they even get a hint that something may be wrong, they go crazy. This is why we have to be level-headed. Like I said in morning prayer, you have to keep your. If you start to get excited, step back and take a breath. Let that calm mind take control. Because when all about you is chaos, you may be the only one that has a level head and is able to help the situation. Because when people are freaking out, they can't think straight. Okay, well, that was a rant. Let me get back on point. So Singapore lifts virus alert to SARS level. Y'all remember about SARS. Singapore has raised its coronavirus level to orange, a level reached during the 2003 SARS outbreak and the 2009 H1N1 influenza, which indicates the virus is severe and passes easily between persons. Singapore has reported 33 cases of patients infected with the new coronavirus. There's a really bad problem right now that this may transfer over into other animals that may fly out to other places and spread it. Right now they're having a big problem with crows, and mosquito swarms are coming in. Well, they're sucking on those bodies. They're sucking on people who are sick. So they're really watching that close, trying to keep it under control. So you can see it's messed everything up. Even here in America, it's messed everything up. Turkey halts all imports of livestock and animal fats from China. First Canadians repatriated from Wuhan land in Canada. There's the buses. They're actually locking them down. Hong Kong unveils virus quarantine plan, up to 6 months jail for Dodgers. 3 more cases reported in Singapore. So on and on and on. Now when you see all this news, you have to stop and think about what's going on. That's not the host for the coronavirus. It was farmers' pigs. This is a little critter that runs around in the woods and nobody even hardly interacts with this thing. But they're saying they admitted that they infected farmers' pigs. The farmers got sick and it spread from there. That's why you got to do research. Yeah, but they'll make you think some animal hardly anybody ever sees is the one that caused it. Malaysia's got it now. There's that doctor right there. Well, at least he tried. At least he tried to do the right thing. And what he did actually, hopefully woke a bunch of people up, but terrible that he had to die to do it. So they're fighting it, guys. They're all over this stuff. So, like I said, we can't panic. And we can't take what we see in the news as gospel. You have to do your own research on this stuff. Okay. I've been watching this situation for a little bit now. Turkey bolsters Idlib outposts as Syrian government forces make gains. They've actually been fighting in Syria for the last 4 or 5 days now. It's actually been picking up and getting quite bad. There have been several airstrikes in Syria from Israel, right near where these guys are fighting, but it's picking up quite a bit. Turkey has sent nearly 150 vehicles with commandos and ammunition to reinforce its 12 observation outposts in Idlib, Syria's last rebel-held region, according to Turkish state news agency Anadolu. The entry of the Turkish convoy, at least the second in a week, on Friday, followed an increase in fighting in northwest Idlib province and a rare deadly clash between Turkish and Syrian government forces. The development also came a day before Russian officials arrived in Turkey for talks over the situation in Idlib. I can't remember the rabbi, but there was a rabbi that had actually mentioned that if you see Russia take over Istanbul, the Messiah is near. They've been in Istanbul for a while now. I can't remember where that prophecy was. You can Google it and see it. But yeah, he talks about that. And we see that. Actually, Russia has threatened to take over Turkey a couple of times. Very dire situation. EU calls for end to Syria bombing. Passenger plane narrowly escaped Israeli attack on Syria, Russia. Syria war. UN warning of humanitarian catastrophe. Hold on just a second. Okay, so Turkey says 9 of its outposts set up under a 2018 deal with Russia, all in the southeastern part of the region, have now been encircled by the Syrian army, according to Al Jazeera's Sinem Kozoglu. I hope I said that right. He was reporting from Syria's Bab al-Hawa near the Turkish border, said Ankara is determined to keep the positions. Turkey said it will keep reinforcing those military posts. After the Syrian government managed to regain control over the territories down below the M4 and M5 highways, as well as Sarakib town, 9 Turkish military posts are now in the areas that are under control of the Syrian government, she said. A lot of people have been talking about this exodus. Been talking about this exodus going on, where people are trying to get out of there. They're tired of war. That country has been war-ravaged for a long time, and they don't know what else to do, so now they're trying to leave. And who knows where they can go? I mean, there's really nowhere they can go because everything up there is all fighting right now. So this situation is escalating. There's been a lot of pretty heavy-duty fighting going on here. And Russia's been involved for a while. But Russia's getting involved, and Iran is trying to get involved. They have troops down there around Damascus, Golan Heights, and over towards Idlib. So if this many forces are there, because when you look at Damascus and look at Syria, there's really no reason to attack Damascus. We're watching for Damascus to be destroyed. It's in Isaiah, I think. What's the purpose of destroying it? Well, the only reason why you would completely obliterate it, that nobody could live there anymore, is if there was a bunch of troops there or a bunch of armament there that you needed to take out. Why has Israel been attacking Damascus? Army depots and armament. They've been finding a whole bunch of it there. They've been hitting bases there. So, if we see this massing of troops going on in that region of Syria, it's not outside the realm of possibility to think airstrike or even possibly a nuke go in there and take out a whole bunch of armies all at one time. We know, according to the Bible, that in the Golan Heights, the mountains to the north, there's going to be a big battle with Israel and the Gog-Magog armies. Well, they're all there. They're all in position. So we're seeing all this unfold. It's creeping forward, but since the beginning of this year, it's really started to pick up pace. So we're keeping a close eye on all the players in this game. Okay. Let's see. All right. Where does Trump's acquittal leave the U.S.-Ukraine relations? You guys remember what happened in Ukraine. Russia went out there and took Crimea and blocked them off from going through the straits there. Ukraine was at the center of the bid to impeach U.S. President Donald Trump, and ties are not expected to be reset. This is interesting because when the Ukraine got in trouble with Russia here near the beginning of last year, and even at the end of 2018, we came to their rescue. We came to their aid. Now they're fighting against us because Trump was asking for information on Biden and his son and the stuff that they were doing over there, which was illegal according to our laws because they are government officials. And that's all he was trying to do, and that's why they were trying to impeach him on, which was funny because when they did the acquittal, they said, well, he still lied to the American people. Okay, well, what president hasn't? The government officials that were trying to impeach him lied more than he has. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous. Okay, so this Hormkyo lives next to the epicenter of a political maelstrom that nearly cost U.S. President Donald Trump his presidency. It didn't even come close. They want to make it out like they got that close to winning. No, it didn't even come close. And pushed Ukraine into the limelight of global politics. You go look and see how that whole thing with the impeachment played out. And once they started talking about witnesses, the Democrats' whole argument the floor fell out from under it. The 63-year-old retiree resides in a shabby Soviet-era 9-story building in northern Kiev, adjacent to the business center that hosts the offices of Burisma, a natural gas company that employed former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, as a board member between 2014 and 2019. This is the shenanigans that were in question, because what was happening is a lot of money and this quid pro quo thing was changing hands here. This is a common tactic with government officials in our country to have their family members work on the board of directors for other companies in other countries, especially as it involves resources, because they're able to exchange money back and forth legally because they have an asset in that organization. If you just go and just say, hey, here's some money, well, people are looking at that. But if you got an asset over there, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this deal. Here, my son's name's on it because of this, that, and the other. And they make up all these excuses because they have somebody there. Basically, they're just filling a seat to create a link. For money to change hands. That's what Trump was investigating. They won't tell you that on the evening news. But that's what he was looking at. He's trying to find out what kind of illegal stuff they were doing, because they had actually been doing this during the Obama era. I think Obama approved it. And money changed hands. So, okay, so, a lot of videos coming up. Okay, so that's what this whole thing started on. That's how this whole thing got going, is that this connection was made. And there were some illegal activities going on. Trump was trying to get to the bottom of it. He didn't do anything illegal. He told them, okay, well, if this is the game you guys want to play, we're not giving you no more aid. You're getting aid through the Bidens because of their connection. So use that. And there was nothing illegal about that. The Ukraine was going against our international laws and the agreement they had for our aid anyway by having Biden's son working there. So, bunch of nonsense. But that's our political structure. Biden's job was an apparent censure designed to protect Burisma and its owners, former politician and oligarch, I don't even know how to say that name, Mykola, from money laundering charges. In 2016, Ukraine's parliament sacked Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin after Biden accused him of corruption and threatened to withhold $1 billion in aid. A year later, charges against Zarkovsky were dropped. But Hormko is indifferent to the Burisma affair that triggered an impeachment inquiry into whether Trump coerced his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr, into investigating Biden, one of Trump's top political rivals in the 2020 presidential race. So you see how this got started. There was already negative stuff going on with the Bidens. They were trying to control decision-making in Ukraine by withholding money. They tried to get Trump on impeachment by withholding money. How stupid is that? Because they were all doing the same thing. This is why I did that video about you got to know who you vote for. I just mentioned those people, but that refers to everybody in political office. Trump has already proven himself as a politician who doesn't just forget personal offenses, but remembers the favors he has not received. Honestly, I don't care. Got enough problems of my own. The bespectacled woman in a gray knitted hat and a long coat told Al Jazeera, citing her challenges. High heating bills, soaring prices, and deteriorating health care. The politicians will sort it all out. It does not affect my life. What? Blind. That's why your life is affected that way. They're the ones making those decisions. But according to some Ukrainian analysts, it might. You don't have to be an analyst. What they're doing in political offices directly affects our lives. Trump has already proven himself as a politician, and we already read that. Kiev-based analyst Alexei Kushk told Al Jazeera, referring to Trump's July 25 phone call, in which he asked Zelensky for a favor, the investigation into the Bidens. However, Ukrainian political consultant with close ties to Rudy Giuliani, there's another joker, Trump's personal lawyer, thinks that the president, who was acquitted on Wednesday, holds no grudges. There's some things about Giuliani you guys don't know. I was in New York when he was up there. He's an okay guy, but he's got skeletons. There will be no vengeance, just a reset of our relations with the United States, with the Trump administration. Andriy, a former diplomat who helped Giuliani during his trip to Kiev in December, told Al Jazeera. Now, Giuliani isn't the great guy people think he is. Do you think America cares about Ukraine? Well, obviously they do. Okay. So, Watchwoman 65 touched on this story, so I'm not going to touch on that one. I don't want to double dip on there. Yeah, these Palestinians. I don't like Al Jazeera. Okay. We're going to do this one, then we're going to move to the next paper. We're going to cover a bunch of headlines today. I want to get you guys caught up on some news. Macron, Europeans cannot remain spectators in new arms race. You guys know Macron, as the EU is breaking down, Macron is collecting those into the new Roman Empire. That's the pet name we've been giving it. But he's bringing up a new coalition of nations. This is the beast made of many parts, and spoken of in the Bible. And they're mixing their militaries up too. French President Emmanuel Macron has advocated. You guys remember too. He was also a candidate for Antichrist. I don't think he is the guy though. French President Emmanuel Macron has advocated a more coordinated European Union defense strategy, in which France, the bloc's only post-Brexit nuclear power, and its arsenal would hold a center role. Addressing military officers graduating in Paris on Friday, Macron set out his country's nuclear strategy in a bid to show leadership 1 week after nuclear-armed Britain officially exited the EU. You guys know about that, Brexit. Been talking about Brexit for 2.5 years. Trump announces the peace plan. Brexit happens weeks later. Macron highlighted how France sees its nuclear weapons as a deterrent against Israel from belligerent foes, though he conceded France's nuclear might is diminished after its military scaled down its arsenal to less than 300 nuclear weapons. But the speech aimed to project strength, as Macron refused to sign any treaty at this stage to further reduce the French arsenal. Little known fact about that is that every one of those countries that joins his little group he's spearheading, all the armies come together. So actually they're not decreasing, they're increasing by a lot. They just got Germany last year. Announced an increase in military spending and positioned himself as a driving force for a united EU, using France's military clout to make his point. He's building his own nation. Macron also touted the French military's role in spots such as Africa's Sahel, where he had just pledged an additional 600 troops to battle fighters. Africa's got it bad right now. We've got it. We've actually have a offshoot of the American Army down there, the United States Army of Africa or something like that, where they're training them in actual our military training and equipment. It's working pretty good, actually. I almost got sent there. The central idea in the keynote speech, however, was that a boosted Europe-wide role for the French nuclear arsenal is a more coordinated European defense policy. Macron said the strategy would prevent Europe confining itself to a spectator role in an environment dominated by Russia, the United States, and China. Europeans must collectively realize that, in the absence of a legal framework, they could quickly find themselves exposed to the resumption of a conventional, even nuclear, arms race on their soil, Macron warned. His remarks come at a time when NATO allies, who would ordinarily look to the U.S. for help in a nuclear standoff, worry about Washington's retreat from the multilateral stage. Well, there's a reason why that's happening. because the peace deal, America has always been the broker, the stand back guy going, hey guys, here you go, here's this, trying to bring people together. This time it changed, and a lot of people missed it. This time, America actually joined Israel. That's why you saw them take it and go, bam, there it is, figure it out. And even Kushner, he's over there, he's saying, hey, Palestinians, if you don't like the lines we drew, come talk to us. Let's figure this out and get this. They're forcing their hand, because now America has a vested interest in this peace deal. Not just broker, they're partner with it. That means we are going to play a very large role in how this unrolls. That's why you saw it laid out, whereas all last year they couldn't lay it out. This could create new tensions with NATO, where Macron ruffled feathers last year by saying the lack of U.S. leadership is causing the brain death of the military alliance. Last year, Russia and the U.S. pulled out of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, dating from the era of the Soviet Union, and each blamed the other for its failure, evoking the tearing up of the INF Treaty. Macron said he wanted the Europeans to propose their own international arms control agenda together. They're separating away from everyone, becoming their own entity, their own coalition of nations. The Book of Revelations talks about it. Friday's speech was part of Macron's long-running push for a stronger European defense, as U.S. President Donald Trump has pulled away from European allies and admonished them to pay more for their own protection. Macron explained his vision as an offer of dialogue and service to Europeans to assert their autonomy in defense and arms control. Don't let the governments fool you. Macron and Putin are in bed deep with the Arabs. Like Putin and the Iranian mullah, they're like best friends. They're really closely connected. Macron, same thing. They're all running around with each other making these backdoor treaties. So whatever you see on the news, there's even more happening behind the scenes. I've seen a few pictures and a few videos where they were like big time shaking hands. Okay, so miracle at Temple Mount, Israeli policeman, we're in breaking Israel news, grazed by bullet inches from heart. The gunman, here's something interesting, a recent Christian convert to Islam, fired from just a few feet away. So he didn't attempt any of this stuff when he was a Christian. Goes to become a Muslim and starts killing people. Why am I not surprised? Nothing against my Muslim brothers, but when you take somebody, especially a white dude, and you make him Muslim, he loses his mind. Okay. An Arab got within a few feet of a border policeman checkpoint near the Lion's Gate and opened fire. The soldier who charged the gunman was wounded in the arm, and the bullet passing through his arm passed inches away from his chest. The terrorist suddenly pulled a gun and started shooting. Oh, they actually got the picture where it passed through his arm. And started shooting toward us a few rounds. The unnamed soldier, oh, how appropriate. Do you see the tattoo? How appropriate for what we're seeing nowadays. Big old dragon. The terrorist suddenly pulled a gun and started shooting toward us a few rounds. The unnamed soldier said in a police video released after the attack, even though I was hit in the shoulder, I charged at them together with another officer who was with me in the post, and we neutralized them. The IDF soldier who was injured told Times of Israel the other soldiers pursued the terrorist, shooting and killing him. How interesting. The tattoo of a big old dragon. That stands out a little bit. It's just a tattoo, but still, of all the tattoos he could have show in a picture, it's a dragon tattoo. Why couldn't it have been Woody Woodpecker? Why couldn't it have been Donald Duck? I don't know. The officers responded with determination, neutralizing the assailant and preventing further attacks on innocents. We already knew things were going to happen on the Temple Mount. It was going to escalate because of what's going on right now with the peace plan, and now that the U.S. has a vested interest. They're trying to part the sea of Arabs so Israel can get in there and have access to the Temple Mount. The Arabs are like, no. Deep down, they're afraid to let them up there. Because deep down, they know that if they're allowed up there, things are going to change for them. They're scared. They won't admit it, but that's the problem. They're scared to let the Jews up there because everything may change if the Jews start praying on the Temple Mount, which it will. Hebrew language media said the terrorist was an Arab man from Haifa who converted from Christianity to Islam recently. That almost doesn't make sense. The Palestinians have responded to President Trump's plan for peaceful coexistence between Jews and Arabs with a wave of terror attacks. 12 off-duty IDF soldiers were wounded in a ramming attack in central Jerusalem in the early hours of Thursday. Just drove his car right through a whole bunch of people for no reason. Another soldier was lightly injured just before noon on Thursday in a drive-by shooting alongside a highway near Dolev in Samaria. There have also been countless aerial explosive devices. We're going to see a story on that in a minute. And mortars launched into Israel in the past week in clear cooperation between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. Palestine wants a state. Palestine wants to be recognized. Palestine wants part of Israel's land. They got it. How are they responding to that? Up yours, we don't want nothing to do with you. We're going to kill all you if we can. Okay. See, they are stupid, because if they would have kept their mouth shut and accepted the deal they got in 1948, they'd have a bunch of land and everything would be fine. It'd be hunky-dory. But they kept doing this, kept operating from a place of emotion and hatred, and now what did it get them? Minimal land. If they don't take the deal now, they're not getting nothing, because now that the U.S. is involved, they're going to tell them, okay, well, y'all are going to be relocated. See ya. Going to take you out in the desert. But that's what they wanted. They keep complaining. Sometimes you just got to shut up and take it. So this story's been up here for a while. In the wake of Trump deal, Muslims warn of a new reality on the Temple Mount. Muslims only. They don't want them up there. I actually covered some of these stories a couple days ago. Palestinian expert, Israel is building the third temple under the Aqsa Mosque. We've known that for a while. You can actually take the tours. It's all laid out in there. Because it's funny. Because they wouldn't let them up on top of it, so they started this excavation project to shore up the foundations. The Jews are all underneath it. They got the sons of Ishmael up there too. All underneath there, building up the foundations. And last year I did a story where two different independent contractors were called in to take a look. And when they took them under there, they were telling them it's a restoration project of all the tunnel systems that are under the Temple Mount. And both guys, independently, not knowing each other, both guys walked in. They said, as soon as I walked in, I looked up and I was like, this isn't a restoration project. This is reinforcement. Because that's what their specialty is. And they said, they're building this up for something. They want to build the temple up there. So they're reinforcing the foundation. While they were doing that, they built an actual temple underneath. That's where they do their meetings and their worship and everything when everybody's gone. So kind of funny that they won't let them go on top, so they just built it underneath it. But yeah, it's there, and you can tour it. There's several videos on YouTube of the tours. Messiah's Gate of Mercy being used as sanctuary for terrorists. I covered this one a couple days ago or a week ago. They are actually trying to block the East Gate even more. If the Muslim graves outside and all the brickwork, because that brickwork, geez, was like 100 feet thick, and all that brickwork to close off that East Gate, now they're having them all hide in there. Because there's a bunch of little buildings and dwellings inside there. So they're having them all hide there. So yeah, it's not going to work, guys. Okay. All right. Whoops. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Okay, let's go to Times of Israel. I like this one better because they get in a lot better stories. Palestinians in Gaza launch balloons carrying RPG warhead into Israel. This has been ongoing for a long time. And they're using kids' balloons. And the thing is, they're landing in playgrounds. They actually just recently had to evacuate a playground. I think it was 2 days ago. Palestinians in the Gaza Strip on Friday launched what appeared to be the warhead of a rocket-propelled grenade attached to balloons in southern Israel on Friday. The suspected explosive was discovered in a field by Kibbutz Ruhama, northwest of Gaza, and police sappers were called to inspect the RPG warhead, according to Hebrew media. It was the sixth suspected airborne explosive device apparently launched from Gaza to be found in the south on Friday. So not only are they doing it from the north, but they're doing it from the south too, and the east. In one instance, Route 3 in the south of the country was temporarily closed, while sappers dealt with a suspicious object that appeared to have become detached from the balloons. So there it is there, and that is a rocket-propelled grenade warhead. That would be considered a 103 millimeter, I think. Particularly nasty, lots of shrapnel. There were no reports of injuries or damage. Police called on the public to alert authorities to any suspicious-looking objects and refrain from approaching them. Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip began flying explosives and incendiary devices into Israel using clusters of balloons and kites beginning in 2013. The practice has waxed and waned over that time, but has picked up considerably in recent weeks, namely since the peace deal, with dozens of these balloons-borne bombs landing in towns and farming communities adjacent to the Palestinian enclave. So they know where they're coming from. So the Palestinians are still, no, we don't want your peace deal. They're trying to help them, and they don't want it. The Israel Defense Forces Home Front Command on Friday released a poem for children warning them against the dangers of the balloon-borne bombs flown in Gaza. In addition to being attached to colorful balloons, some of these explosive devices have also been disguised as other child-friendly objects like books and soccer balls. They're targeting the kids. That's why the balloons are so colorful. Sick people, they don't need a state. They need to get relocated far away. Few injuries have been caused by these airborne attacks, but they have caused extensive damage to Israeli agricultural fields, parks, and forests, especially during the country's dry summer months. On Thursday, IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kohazi said the military would take a tougher stand against these airborne attacks, along with other types of terrorist activities. The military and police have called on the public to alert authorities to any suspicious-looking objects and refrain from approaching them. Recent weeks have seen a marked increase in the launching of these balloon-borne explosive devices, with many being sent into southern Israel each day, apparently at the direction of Gaza-ruling Hamas terror group. The past week also saw near-daily rocket and mortar attacks on southern Israel, which caused neither injury nor damage. I was talking to Lisa, and her phone was going off like crazy, because it was just non-stop rocket announcements. In response to the launches, all of which have struck open fields in southern Israel, the IDF have conducted airstrikes on Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. Also, yesterday or the day before in Syria. Israel defense officials believe that the Gaza-ruling Hamas terror group is trying to increase pressure on Israel in a bid to extract greater concessions in ongoing ceasefire negotiations. But every time they get a ceasefire, it lasts maybe 12 hours and they start fighting again. Fears have also mounted in recent days of an escalation of violence in Gaza and in the West Bank following the release last week of a U.S. peace plan that is seen as heavily favoring Israel. Well, of course, it's their land. Okay, so we already expected this was going to happen. It's been going on. Yeah, let's read this one. Kushner says it will take months to prepare West Bank maps ahead of annexation. So, this whole thing with the annexation has kind of been put on hold. They've actually been doing some work behind the scenes to prepare for annexing. But when they've been trying to do it, that's where much of this fighting has come from, because they're trying to do the annexation. I believe Kushner has convinced Netanyahu to stand back and say, well, hold on, let's go through this set of elections in March first. I need to look and see when those elections are. Hold on a second. I just had a sudden idea. Israel elections 2020, March 2nd, 2020. Okay. I don't know why I didn't think about this before. April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2020. So it's going to be 1 month prior to the elections. Now, you guys know we've been talking about this Venus Pleiades thing. There's actually a lot behind this. This is actually mentioned in the Bible. This particular conjunction only happens about every 235 years. Fire Girl actually sent me a video of a guy talking about this and some stuff he had found. Pretty interesting. But this has a lot of biblical meaning. So we're watching for that. But that is 1 month prior to the elections. And I wonder if it's going to play a part in all this. Okay, back to what we were doing. That just hit me all of a sudden. Wait a minute. When is that going to happen? Jared Kushner, the chief architect of the Trump peace plan, has said that it will take several months to complete work on detailed West Bank maps before Israel will be able to annex settlements in the Jordan Valley. Those of you that have been with me since last year, remember how I kept telling, look at all the things that connect Kushner to this whole situation and how really obvious it seems like he's a great candidate for the Antichrist. I suddenly noticed more people are starting to see it now. After briefing the UN Security Council at a private lunch at the U.S. mission to the United Nations on Thursday, Kushner told a small group of journalists that he and his team will follow up with the announcement shortly that a U.S.-Israeli commission, because we're now partners with them, is being established to turn its conceptual map into a detailed map with the goal of making sure you can have contiguous territory for a Palestinian state. What they're basically going to do is just going to have tunnels that are going to connect all the regions together. So you can go from one to the other without passing over Israeli territory. It can take a couple of months for technical teams to come up with a map, Kushner said, and during that time, he and his team plan to consult with European and Middle Eastern governments to further explain the plan. They're not giving them a choice in this, they're making them do this. Hey, we're coming to talk to you whether you want to or not. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to swiftly start annexing parts of the West Bank moments after the White House unveiled its peace proposal late last month. Though U.S. Ambassador David Friedman initially backed the move, Kushner said publicly he expected Israel to wait at least until after the national vote on March 2nd. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to wait. We're in February. They could try to do something this month or next month. Netanyahu wants to start annexing this big time because he knows, and anybody who's paying attention to the elections setup knows, if he annexes land, Israelis are going to go in and go, Netanyahu's our guy, and they're going to vote for him. It's a smart move on his part. Settler leaders have said that Netanyahu told them he is still seeking to annex part of the West Bank before elections early next month, despite U.S. oppositions to the move. Kushner, the son-in-law and advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump, said Thursday that the U.S. proposal may be the last chance because the rate of expansion of Israeli settlements may preclude a continuous Palestinian state. They're trying to get them to agree to this now because they may not have any more land later on. Right now, Kushner said it's very, very difficult to have a continuous state where you can drive from top to bottom. That's the truth. If you look at the rate of expansion of Israel's settlements, and if you look at the aspiration, because you all know that the exodus has been happening of Israelis back to Israel. If you look at the aspirations of the Palestinians people, you're about to get a crossroad where you almost can't come back, he said. He said the 180-page plan, which you can download for free in a PDF, Hold on a second, I may need to take this call. Sorry about that. I had to take that call because that was Tough Shed. I'm putting in, for the first time in my life. I'll do a video after I get it built. I'm having a shop. I'm going to have my own shop. I don't have to have my tools laying out on porches. And my own shop to set everything up for the first time ever in 49 years. Whew. I'm actually kind of excited. Now, a lot of people will be like, well, wait a minute. Don't you believe in a pre-trib rapture? Well, yeah. Don't you think it's going to? Yeah. That don't mean I stop living. You still live. Keep living. Keep doing your thing. Okay. He said the 180-page plan was what we got Israel to agree to. And the most constructive thing the Palestinians can do is sit down with Israel and go over it line by line. Did you notice, hear what he said? What we got Israel to agree to. They don't care if the Palestinians agree to it. They're telling them, you come sit down and talk to us, or you're going to get what you get. They're giving them an opportunity to come and talk to them. They're like before, like all of 2019. They're not going, hey, we want to see if you guys agree to this and all that. They're telling them, this is what we got. You either agree to it or you don't. They're not giving them choices. I think that's actually kind of poetic, but if they would like to meet, we're happy to do it, but we're not going to chase them, Kushner said. A lot of people were getting all irate here a couple weeks ago. Oh, the Palestinians have to agree to it. No, they don't. It's different now. The U.S. is part of this now. So they're not worried about the Palestinians. Here's what we're going to give you. We'll make adjustments as necessary, but at some point, you're going to get X'd out, doors closing. But under terms of the peace vision that Kushner oversaw, all Israeli settlers would remain in place, and Israel will retain sovereignty over all of its settlements, as well as the strategic Jordan Valley. Looking back at the lengthy process of drafting the plan, Kushner said that during the 4 meetings with Abbas, I never felt like he was willing to get into details, either because he's not a detail-oriented person or because he didn't know what he wanted to accomplish. He liked high-level principles, but you can't solve problems with high-level principles, and so they chose not to meet with us again, Kushner added. Abbas doesn't want anything to do with this. They want all of Jerusalem. They want a complete, joined-together Palestinian state taking up most of Israel, and they won't settle for anything less. This guy, Abbas. But they don't have that choice anymore. That's been taken away from them. The Palestinians who rejected the plan before it was announced broke ties with the U.S. after the Trump administration announced in December 2017 that it would move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and recognize the city as Israel's capital. If the Jews were to move and give Palestine all of Israel, the Palestinians would still complain. Oh, you left all your stuff here. Oh, we don't like this architecture. You need to fix that. Oh, I can't believe you guys, left all this stuff for us to help us. We don't want none of your help. Come get your stuff and take it out of here. Oh, no, wait, we'll go ahead and use it. These are people born to complain. Give them caviar and they'll complain and want bologna instead. But you gave them something better, but they'll complain and go get the... You can't please people like that. At some point, you've just got to say, okay, here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. You don't like it, tough. You don't have a choice in the matter. They're not a nation. They have no government. They just have representatives. They have no say-so in this. So anybody who's got that idea in their head that they have to, no, they don't. That is not Palestinian land. They are offering them a space. That's all Israel land. Breaking habits. Kushner also said he was working to shift the approach of the international community to break its habits to solve the hardest problem in the world. He presented the plan to the UN Security Council using maps and graphics to illustrate his contention that the parallel developments of Israeli settlements and Palestinian aspirations would lead to a point of no return for the creation of a Palestinian state. At some point, the door is going to close, and they're going to say, this is what you got. Deal with it. Several countries, including Britain and Belgium, said the meeting was very interesting, while a diplomat said some members of the Security Council were given the U.S. plan in the form of a large book signed by Kushner. You notice his name is really popping up a lot here lately. All of a sudden, he was quiet for months. In fact, about half of 2019. People want to see fresh thinking and progress, Kushner told reporters. We are having very constructive discussions with everyone, and we want to work together with the Council and other countries to make progress. What we are doing is just trying to fight against habits. People have been in habit for so long of just saying the same things, putting out the same statements, he said. They're forcing them. They're forcing them without forcing them. They're gently pushing, but they have a winch on the other side pulling. The plant's recent publication has caused a ton of cracks in the approach taken by several states, Kushner said, pointing in particular to the European Union, which he said was not able to get a consensual statement about the proposal. So they X'd them out. This is all why the U.S. got involved, and it changed the dynamic completely. He also said members of the Arab League had either been neutral or supportive in the ideas, and he had seen very, very few critical statements. We are able to convince more and more people that this is the way to go. People are tired of this issue. They realize it's not in their national interest to see a resolution, he added. They want this done. They are so tired of the constant fighting over there. I mean, businessmen are trained yearly to carry a gun, go into the office, because it's nonstop trouble, and they want it to stop. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that jumps out. We've been at this for a little bit now, so. Wait, what was that? Kushner says it will take. Okay, we already did that one. Court remands suspected Jerusalem car rammer. Family claims crash was accidental. I don't know about that one. UK Jewish leader, anti-Semitism worse than ever since World War II, yet we're ignoring it. It's actually gotten really bad. New York is fighting this right now in our country. having a real bad problem with anti-Semitism. Syria almost downed civilian plane while repelling Israeli attack, Russia says. And they can't keep from hitting those civilian planes. Quit flying over Syria. My co-star, Kirk Douglas. You know, he converted to Judaism right before he died. Let's see. Anything interesting? Yeah, TikTok's a joke. So on and on we go. Okay, so this has been going very long, so I'm going to stop here. There's a lot of stories, guys. A lot of stuff happening. We can't even begin to cover it all. There's so much. Okay, let's end with this story right here, because this plays on what we're talking about. More Israelis support two-state solution via Trump plan than oppose it on a survey. If the peace plan requires recognition or recognizing a Palestinian state, 45.3% said Israel should go ahead. 38.1% opposed the idea. Half the population see release of plan as election interference. It could be. Or, depending on how it plays out, it could help. There's still time. More Israelis think the country should agree to a Trump administration peace plan than that includes recognition of a Palestinian state than those who oppose the creation of a state under the plan, according to a survey published Monday. The Israeli Voice Index poll was conducted before U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled his peace proposal in Washington last week, but it asked respondents about willingness to recognize a Palestinian state on the assumption that such a condition would be included in the plan. While 45.3% would accept the condition of recognizing a Palestinian state, 38.1% said Israel should not agree, according to the poll, a monthly survey conducted by the Israel Democracy Institute, a think tank in Jerusalem. There are a lot of Jewish people that they don't want the Palestinians there. It's not their land. They have no claim to the land. Overall support among all Jewish respondents was at 44. It's funny, as when they do the archaeological research, they scrape down a little bit, find a whole bunch of Palestinian stuff. They've been there for a while. Find some Palestinian stuff, dig down 2 more feet, all Jewish stuff. Below that, dirt. Overall support among the Jewish respondents was at 45.5%, nearly the same as the 44% overall support among Arabs. The relatively low support among Arabs may stem from skepticism over the Trump administration's intentions and Washington's feud with the Palestinian Authority leadership in Ramallah. Nearly half of the respondents, and a clear majority among Arab citizens, said that the timing of the Trump rolling out of his plan, barely 6 weeks before elections in Israel, was interfering in the vote to support Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with his campaign for the March 2nd vote. Among the Jewish population, 46% felt Washington was trying to help Netanyahu, but among left-wing Jews, fully 78% were certain the timing of its release was meant to help Netanyahu. The figure was also high, 69%, among self-identified centrist Jews, but much lower, just 33.5%, among right-wing Jews. They don't want Netanyahu in there. The ultra-Orthodoxy does not want Netanyahu in. They have another guy. Remember Gideon Sa'ar? They've named him specifically. They want him to run it because he's going to play ball. Netanyahu doesn't. They don't like Netanyahu just like people here in America don't like Trump. Israel is heading to the third elections within a year after votes in April and September failed to break a political deadlock and produce a government. Yet, in a segmentation by voting in the most recent elections, the greatest support for the Trump plan, which includes recognition of a Palestinian state, turns out to be among the parties of the left and the center. While most of the voters on the right-wing parties and the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox parties, oppose the plan, said the authors. They don't want Palestinians in there. That's Jewish land. Support was highest amongst those who voted in September for the progressive Democratic camp, 79%. And the very high among left-wing Labor Gesher, 67%, and centrist Blue and White, 65% voters. Support was at the halfway point among right-wing secularists, Yisrael Beitenu voters, 51%, and less than half among the voters for the Arab majority joint list, 44%. The Haredi Ashkenazi Party, United Torah Judaism, 33%. Center-right Likud, 33%. Right-wing Yamina, 23.5%. And the Haredi Sephardi Party, Shas, 23%. And I thought Democrats, Republicans, and conservatives was bad. That might explain Netanyahu's unexpected political trouble after what he billed as a historic unveiling of the peace plan last week in Washington, only to see growing opposition to the American proposal among Likud cabinet ministers and his right-wing base. Although prediction polls in Hebrew media have shown the blue and white party opening a slight lead over rivals Likud, the IDI survey found that Netanyahu still had the most support to lead Israel into peace negotiations. That's why he's trying to annex. If he annexes early, that's why he wants to do it before the elections. If he annexes early and says, here guys, we have more of our land back, they're going to go, you're our guy, we like you. He knows what he's doing. And if he does that, he's going to get more votes. Asked who would conduct negotiations better, 45.5% backed Netanyahu compared to 21% for Gantz, and 20.2% responding that they would be about the same. The remaining 13.2% either didn't know or declined to answer, and that's a problem we have in our country. There's a large percentage of people who just don't know what's going on. That's why they don't vote. The study also found a plurality of Israelis saying the declining or deciding factor in the election would be the criminal indictments looming over Netanyahu, a view espoused by 32% of Israelis, followed by 21% who saw cost of living and housing prices as the primary issue, 18% who said security, 10% who said religion and state, and 7% who said relations between Arabs and Jews. The study authors noted those figures marked a sharp shift in the Israeli public sense of what would drive voters to the polls, 10 months ago ahead of the April 2019 elections. The Israeli Voice Index survey found a plurality of 30% cited security concerns as being the most influential factor in the election, followed by economic issues, 22%, and Netanyahu's criminal probes at third place with 19%. If they deal with those security issues, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to run to the polls and vote for Netanyahu. That's why he's annexing. Clearly, the decision to indict Netanyahu and the public discourse surrounding Netanyahu's investigations have left their mark, the IDI said. Oh yeah, they definitely have. Okay, we're going to end there. I've actually gone quite a bit longer than I wanted to. He's having a dream. Okay. Real quick. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this in a separate video, guys. I'm going to do the... He's having a dream. I'm going to do the pestilences and things and compare that to a biblical scripture as a separate video. This one's already gone on long enough. So look forward to that later on today. I actually had to take off. But that's some of the headlines, guys. We see a lot of stuff unfolding right now. I'm watching the papers, and as I have time, I'm trying to get on here and at least once a day give you guys some headlines. Let's keep looking up. Let's keep watching. We know the time is short. We see everything unfolding. And I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.